everybody. My name is Lee Brock, and I'm one of the co-artistic directors of the Barrow Group. And I welcome you all here this afternoon with our artist conversation with the wonderful Arlene Hutton. She also goes by Beth Lincks. So we're very excited that you're here. And for this viewing, if you don't mind, we can keep our cameras off, and the conversation will be with Beth and myself. And if you have questions, you can put them in the chat, and I will ask the questions to Beth, and she'll answer them. So welcome. For those of you who don't know who the Barrow Group is, we are a nonprofit theater company and training program, and we have our operations in New York City. We're about to get into a new space, the 520 8th Avenue building, starting April 1st. So we're very excited about that. But today we have our artist conversation with the beautiful Arlene Hutton, Beth Lincks, who has been with the Barrow Group for, I want to say, kind of over 20 years. And she's most known, I think, for fabulous The Last Train to Nibrock and her Nibrock trilogy, which also is Sea Rock City and Gulf View Drive. And these plays have been performed all over the world. And she's also participated in the Barrow Group's, I think, all of the short stuffs that we've done. She's had a short play in the short stuffs. Beth is also a member of Fab Women, which started in 2009. So she's one of the original members of that, where she's done numerous short plays for that, and also was able to kind of have her New York premiere of Letters to Sala, which has just been published this year. We're so excited about that. Here it is, Letters to Sala. Yay! Beautiful, beautiful. Again, and this play has been done all over the United States, all over the world. It really is a beautiful, beautiful work of art. Also, I had the wonderful pleasure of being in her play Running that we did in 2010, Seth and I, and she is a member of EST and the Dramatists League. So we are so excited that she's with us here today. So Beth, maybe one of the first questions I ask when I do these is like, what's keeping you inspired these days, Beth?
What's keeping me inspired is my students at the Barrow Group, and I'm also on the faculty now of Goddard College. And you know, when you talk about art with your students and process and skill sets and all these things, you start examining your own work as well. And the enthusiasm of everybody getting back to writing and what do we write about now, and it's my students that keep me inspired, really, with all my Barrow Group classes.
That's fantastic. That's so fantastic. And so when you're teaching, do you have a process or a structure that you throw out to your students when you're teaching?
Yeah, I mean, we have, you know, just like the acting program at the Barrow Group, we have several levels of playwriting classes, and the beginning level, we do a lot of exercises, but move into bringing in scenes and 10-minute plays. And then, but my master classes, some people who've been with me off and on for years are all working on full lengths. Mm-hmm. So I use all the teachers at the Barrow Group, as you know, have gone through the teacher training. So I use a lot of the same language that I learned from you and Seth in acting classes. And so I think playwrights, it helps us to think like an actor and ask the same questions, because we're asking, what do I want? What's keeping me from getting it? What are the given circumstances? What is my environment? All those questions that we ask as actors, if we ask those as playwrights, there's a clarity of storytelling that emerges.
Yeah, that's great. That's really wonderful. And so Beth, you started as an actor, right? You came to New York City as an actor. And what was the moment when you kind of thought, oh, like I kind of want to start writing? Or what was that moment? It's like, I'm an actor, you come to New York City, you're an actor. What was that moment that you went, oh, I think I want to write stuff?
Well, I didn't ever think I want to write stuff. I thought I had one idea for a play, and I thought I will write this one play. So I thought I would be a playwright rather than a playwright. Um, uh, this idea rattled around in my head for literally a couple of years, about a woman walking in the park, and actually a woman dreaming of what was going to happen when she was questioned by a defense attorney about what had happened in the park. And after, I just started jotting down little notes, and I wrote this play for myself. I was a member of a small theater company called Alice's Fourth Floor, which existed for about
I remember that.
10 years on 42nd Street.
Yes.
And it was just a hotbed of wonderful, exciting writers. I mean, there was Warren Light, there was Teresa Rebeck, Eva Ensler popped in with some monologues, and it was just an amazing place. And I, as an actor there, I was doing readings, I was even directing some. And so, but I wrote this piece for me to be in, and that's how I came up with the pen name, because I didn't want people to know that I had written it. And it was a short play, and it's still my most performed play. I'm so proud right now. I thought it would be out of date by now, but it isn't. It's basically about blame and shame and every woman's fear of being assaulted. And just before lockdown, a company in India had contacted me and wanted to translate it and perform it. And I gave them the rights to do it for free, because it was a small company. And the idea of a play about that subject matter being performed in India felt meaningful to me. And so they were doing a lot of festivals, and then lockdown happened there, as it did here. And now they're back performing again. And they just did they were at a festival last weekend. It's translated into Kannada, and I would love to go see it.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really amazing.
So,
Well, I think that play is like universal too, and does
sadly,
yeah.
But once I wrote that play and had the other name, I started getting other ideas. And I also, I was past my 20s, and there were fewer roles. I was seeing women get up in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and wonderful actresses that I wanted to work with, but there were no parts for them.
Right.
And so I started writing plays so I could be in them, and so my friends could be in them.
Right.
And I did readings of them at Alice's Fourth Floor, and then we premiered them in Edinburgh at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Suddenly I had a whole career that I never planned on or dreamed of.
Right.
When I was in college, I'd never heard of a woman playwright, except
really?
for Elizabeth Lorraine Hansberry and Lillian Hellman. But I mean, certainly Paula Vogel was writing, Beth Henley was writing, Tina Howe. There were wonderful women playwrights writing. Right. We didn't study them. We didn't perform their work. Yeah. I didn't know about them in my little college in Florida.
Right.
And so it never occurred to me that a woman could be a playwright.
Right. Well, there you are. And so just even your experience with Alice's Fourth Floor, did you find just even being in a collective of writers that was supportive and nurturing you to kind of continue on in your journey of writing?
Yeah, several of us formed a writers group, and we would meet and read scenes. That's where Last Train in Nibrock got started. There was an actress in the group. I wanted to write something for her. I got this idea. And, every week or every 2 weeks, we would get together, and I would bring in a few more pages.
Yeah.
And that's how that developed. Yeah.
That's great. Just like a few more pages at a time. Right. Yeah.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. So your personal process, like when you have an idea comes into your head, like how do you, can you talk us through like what your process is when you are working on a play?
Well, it varies by project. I've done some projects where I had to do a lot of research first, but I come from an improv background, so I did a lot of improv. Once I was in New York, and so writing for me is like improvising in my head. I start from character and dialogue. And maybe a situation or a place. I don't know what the story is, unless it's something like Letters to Sala, which is an existing story. But I just start writing dialogue and let the characters talk to me. And then once I have sometimes a whole draft of a play, as in like running, I would bring in pages and you and Seth would read them to me. And I didn't know where that was going to go.
Right.
But then once I had the whole piece, then I start looking at structure and shaping it.
Uh-huh.
So,
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I think just that's so interesting because you teach playwriting, and so just also how different playwrights have different ways of these, how these plays come out of them, and kind of honoring, what that is. I know that you also love to work under time deadlines too. Like I know you've said to me over the years, it's like I need a time deadline. I said, okay, you have to have a play, by me, for me in a month. And so he's like, oh, okay. So it's like I did, 70 pages today. It's like, okay, so.
busted. Yeah. If I rented a theater in Edinburgh, I will get that play finished, even if I'm writing on the plane.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so that's amazing. And just even talking about that though too. So as you go, if I've rented a theater in Edinburgh, so you're kind of like a triple threat also. Like you're an actor, you write your own plays, you act in the plays, you have that director's eye also, and you're also a producer of your own work because you even started your own company, the Journey Company, to get your plays up. So what was your thinking on that?
Well, I don't think I was thinking. I had really thought about it. I had a chance to go to Edinburgh, and I thought, well, I don't want to just go to the festival. I want to be in the festival. Right. And I got some friends together, and we did my little one-act plays and took them over there. And then I was addicted, and I've been now 5 times. But in college, I did everything. I ran the box office. I was the assistant business manager. I did props, sets, costumes, and acted. And when I first came to New York, I worked in the box office at Lincoln Center or behind the scenes in the subscription department. I worked for a Broadway press agent. So when it came time to put my plays up, I realized I actually had all the skills I already needed. I knew how to do a budget. I knew how to do a press release. And so it just kind of evolved that way. It wasn't something I sat down and said, oh, I'm going to produce my own work. It was just, right. Oh, how do I get this play up? Oh, I do this, this, and this.
Right.
And then when the New York Fringe started 2 years after I went to Edinburgh, I was very excited. And I've been part of the New York Fringe a number of times with you.
Yeah.
I don't act as much anymore. Occasionally I do. I like writing for specific people. Mm-hmm. Working with you and Seth. My favorite way to work is to write a scene and then hear actors read it. Mm-hmm. As soon as possible. And so I love the back and forth with actors as kind of a constant as I'm working, and I start hearing voices in my head. Wow. And that's really, really inspiring to me. And actors are really smart, and have a very specific view of the role. Uh-huh. And I know as an actor that I look at a part differently than the playwright does.
Right.
And so I love asking questions of actors. Does this monologue feel too long? What do you really think is going on here? Oh, you paraphrase that line and that sounds so much better. Let's do it that way. And
right.
So I love the back and forth.
Right. That's great. And you're so wonderful with, in being in the room with you. I mean, that whole back and forth, you really kind of welcome actors' feedback and welcome their input on that, which I think makes your dialogue like so fabulous. And just so.
And that takes a good director to facilitate the conversation and be willing to open up that conversation.
Right.
It can't be a free for all.
Right.
Because then every actor is trying to be the star of that play.
Right.
But with the right director and maybe dramaturg, then that conversation can be facilitated in a way that is helpful for everybody.
Yeah. So also because you direct too, but I mean what are some tools that you throw to yourself when people are reading your work or working on your work and they know it's a new work also, and then the playwright's in the room, it's like, oh, actors always get nervous when the playwright is in the room.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. So how do you come into those rooms and put actors and people at ease when they're wanting to kind of do the best they possibly can for you?
I think it's yes and, I think it's using the the improv term, yes, and that somebody else, somebody will say something, I'll go, yes, and that's an interesting idea. I'm going to explore that further, even if it's a stupid idea in my mind.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and by constantly yes anding and saying that's, and just taking it all in, um, without judging it or saying no,
Right.
then it opens up the door and they feel more comfortable saying that.
Yeah.
One of my biggest tools is my little iPad that I am always just taking notes and just taking it in at a, whether it's in the rehearsal room or at a talk back. I'm just trying to write down what everyone is saying so I can look at it later when I actually have time to process it. Because sometimes it's hard to process feedback in the moment,
Yeah.
and it's easy to get defensive and try to defend what you're doing,
Right.
where it's much more useful to just write down everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this is my biggest tool.
I totally hear that. And I totally agree with that. And I think it's actually a really smart thing that actually we don't talk about enough more than we should. Like, I'm a big note taker too. I take notes constantly. And I think just even that note taking, as you just articulated, it allows you to just kind of take in what people are saying.
Yeah.
And then you really don't have time to have a opinion about it. You're just kind of taking in, absorbing it, and then you can kind of process that in a safer space, or by yourself, or kind of take that in.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really great thing for actors, directors, people, just to, how we observe.
Yeah, and going over those notes later with the director and dramaturg, then there's no, oh, I thought they said this. No, did they said that? Well, I wrote it down. This is what they said. And so what do we think about that?
Right.
So it's easier to share the information and talk about it later with the director. Did you feel this way as well? I and frequently it's not so much as what the actor says, it's about the thing they said it about. So if they've pointed something out, maybe there's a problem there. They don't have the answer, and they may not even be asking the right question. But if I look at that, something made them stop and say, this isn't working for me. And so then that is information for me to address.
Right.
In a reading, everything we do talk backs, and they sometimes can be valuable, and audiences like them sometimes, and theaters love providing them. But all I need to know is what I hear during the reading from the audience. And that's, are they laughing? Are they shuffling in their seats, coughing, or are they dead quiet and completely listening and leaning forward?
Right.
And I learn more watching an audience watch a reading or a production than I do in anything they have to say about me.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And I think that is, absolutely, you're absolutely correct on that. That as artists, also actors, you can kind of sense when the audience is tuned in, or if they're coughing, or if they're shuffling around. Then as a writer, as a director, you kind of feel like, oh, I've just lost my audience here, because we want our audience to be, drawn in at least 100%. Well,
as an actor, what do you want from the playwright in the rehearsal room?
Oh, now you're no, this is all about you,
No, but I want to learn something here.
No, I think what you've just articulated, you were kind of making it a beautiful collaboration. Whereas I think a lot of, like, I asked that question because people do get nervous when that playwright comes in, because playwrights, I think it's a very vulnerable thing. Also, for a playwright, they write something down, and then that thing is in their head, and then when they come and they see actors performing it, it's a little bit different than what it is it is different than what it is in their head. And so also for a playwright, you're kind of taking that thing that's in your head, taking in what you're seeing and hearing on stage, which is a little bit different. And some playwrights, I think, have difficulty with that. They just kind of see it straight in their head, and they're not able to even kind of take in what they are seeing. So actually their nonverbal stuff brings off, like, oh, they're not doing it right, they're not doing it correctly. Oh, they said that line wrong, or they missed the laugh. So you kind of get this defensive thing from the playwright, and the poor actors are there trying to do the best job they possibly can for the playwright. And so that even that dynamic gets a little funky. It's always funky. But with you, as you've just articulated, it seems like even more collaborative with the people that you're working with.
Well, it
That you want to include them more.
helps having been an actress.
Right.
You know, there may be, I know that a moment has to work a certain way, but we're only in the first week of rehearsal.
Right.
So
but sometimes playwrights have to come in and they kind of see it and they hear it, it's in their head. And if it's not meeting what's in their head, like first thing, they freak out.
Yes,
so
exactly.
So they freak out because it's not, it's not matching what's in their head. So then how are you able to kind of calm that playwright down? Because this is only the first reading here. Okay, it's kind of, we're gonna discover all kinds of different things. But I think that you, as you've articulated, you're an actor also, so you're coming from that very collaborative place. I think it would be great for playwrights to take an acting class so that they would know where actors are coming from, so that they're even a little bit more empathetic and have greater compassion for what the actors are kind of going.
I always suggest that the playwrights take an acting class, and also I really urge my playwriting students to take Seth's script analysis class.
Yeah. Just even that script analysis class, which is so interesting. We were talking about that, but you've just articulated, like, you kind of start with character, maybe in an idea, whereas like, Seth and I have a very specific structure, which we go, this is our story structure. Right. We like plays to meet this story structure. But now I think a lot of people are playing around with different forms of structure, where they're kind of throwing the structure out. There is no structure. There's not an end to this play. But
I look at the structure as my rewrite tool.
Right. For you.
Yes, in terms of process. Yeah, for me.
Right. So you kind of, as you said, you go, I maybe don't even know what I'm writing, but I know what the character is, and I know I have an idea, so I'm just writing, and then the structure comes in, like your second draft, or you kind of get it in there, however you get it in there. Well, now some people don't even get it in there, the structure, right? Because I think people are experimenting kind of with different forms, which is an interesting thing. Also, Beth and I like talking here like so much. If you guys have questions for Arlene, Beth, or you can put them in the chat, and I will throw those out to her. But I'll keep talking until some of those questions come in. So maybe like people in your life, like who's influenced you in your life?
Oh, wow.
What are some of the people that have had
everybody that ever said that I couldn't do something?
That you couldn't do something.
Yes. And I wanted to prove them wrong.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. The head of the college theater department, who said I was too short to be, at 5'2", I was too short to be an actress.
Really?
Yeah.
Who said that to you? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And and eventually I'll get a pension from AFTRA for all the SAG-AFTRA from all the work I did, back in my early years in New York. Wow.
So
you and Seth have been such, I mean, I'm not saying that just to be nice or anything. It's true. So Seth Barish, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to everybody who's listening. Directed Last Train in Nibrock, the first New York revival of it, only about a year or two after it played off Broadway. And at that point, I had taken the play, we had premiered it at the New York Fringe Festival, had moved it to 78th Street Theater Lab. I took it to Edinburgh, and then it moved off Broadway. So I had been involved in 4 productions with the same actors that I had either produced myself or been a co-producer or an associate producer on. So that was my production. I loved that production. It was the production I wanted it to be. It got, wonderful reviews. And then I'm invited to see this production, and I go kind of like, yeah, okay. And it was a revelation to me. It was like I'd never seen my own play. I was waiting to find out what's going to happen next. And it was because it was so immediate, so in the moment, and so real. I felt like a voyeur. And afterwards, I've told this story many, many times. Afterwards, I met Seth and I said, what are you doing at the Barrow Group? This is the theater I've been looking for my whole life. And he wanted me to come teach some classes. And I said, well, before that, I need to know what you're actually doing here. And I took several acting classes before I ever taught playwriting for the Barrow Group. And I taught some playwriting, and then I was out of town for about 8 years at different universities. And now I'm, here teaching a lot. But that was a big moment in my life. That was really, really important. And then being part of the Barrow Group and watching, and it's, I love circle repertory, the old circle rep work. And of course there's cross-pollination there and overlap in terms of people and training and stuff. And so it just kind of fit into my aesthetic. So that was really, really important. So you and Seth have been, you've been supporters, you've influenced me, you've argued with me, we've gone to Alaska together and, all kinds of things. So, and then the plays I've seen, the theater I've seen, I remember going to see How I Learned to Drive, the original production, and thinking, oh, I'm never going to write another play. That play does everything I want theater to do.
Yeah.
And then the next night I saw another play by a well-known playwright, and I thought, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm influenced by actors who've spent so much time working on my work and development, sometimes years. I don't know who else. It's hard to say.
Well, that's good. I love that you kind of also kind of led with, everyone that said no to you. It's even creating that little rebel that's, gives us rising above or finding that challenge and go, okay, I'm just gonna, keep going on that.
When you're a petite, blonde little girl growing up in the South, you're always trying to prove that you're as smart as the boys.
Right.
Because
Right.
Nobody takes you seriously.
And so with that just kind of fed your just kind of inner drive to keep going forward. Yeah. So what do you do to help yourself when that little beautiful self-doubt comes to visit? Yeah. So even like, well, the self-doubt like feeds you, but it's like, so maybe that little, so what tools do you throw yourself when kind of that self-doubt comes in to say hello?
So many things are going in my head right now. Well, I'm in therapy, so that helps. Long walks in the park feeds my soul and makes me feel positive about the world again. I have all my published plays on a shelf by my front door. And in a space that I pass all the time. And so sometimes just looking at that shelf going, wow, yeah, I did do something. I mean, I'm the accidental playwright, never planned this life, never dreamed this life. And I've exceeded any expectations I had. I think as a child, I wanted to be able to audition for the community theater and get a part. That would have been a big thing. And so the fact that I actually have had a life in the theater, have made a life for myself, have worked with people that I care about, collaborators that I respect. And what Letters to Sala gets done by a lot of colleges around the country and high schools. And, part of it is all about, are we holding our own idea of success in our hearts? Are we trying to listen to other people's idea of success? Yeah. And my idea of success is getting an email from a teacher at a high school in the Midwest that tells me how much Letters to Sala meant to her students. Yeah. A parent reaching out to me, saying how much he enjoyed the play that his daughter was in high school in Connecticut. Yeah. Yeah. So things like that are really sometimes more meaningful than the bigger things, because they're so authentic. um, a lot of the big things are, kind of a lottery. Is it your year to get the prize? Is it, um, but when you do something that means something to people,
Right.
um, uh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, and I totally agree with that. It's the little, the little things that bring meaning to us. And yeah, one of the questions I was going to ask you, which you kind of already answered, like, did you see yourself being this well-established, person in the theater?
never,
Right?
never.
When you were kind of like, younger, it's like, and here it happens. And I love the fact that you have your plays kind of right there on your bookcase. And I also love your background here with all of her books, like, behind you.
Thanks.
So
Thanks. Yeah, there's a lot of them because
that's like so beautiful. Like, I love that. Isn't that fabulous? That's like so fabulous. Yeah, that's so good. So great. So what are some of the challenges that you have, like uh being a playwright?
Well, in my early years of writing plays, which I first went to Edinburgh in 95. At that point, what, 17, 18% of the plays done in this country by women.
Hmm.
And I often thought, I should have had a different pseudonym. I should have taken a pseudonym with initials or a name that didn't have a gender attached to it or something.
Uh-huh.
But
Uh-huh.
so it's always been fighting that market. And
Hmm.
and certainly it's that has improved over the years thanks to efforts by the Dramatists Guild and Marcia Norman and Julia Jordan and the Count and all kinds of things that have happened over the years, and that ratio has gone up. But you look at a regional theater's uh, you look at their season and you go, oh, look at all the plays that they're doing by women and people of color. That's great. That's a great ratio. But then you realize that the theaters is doing those plays in their smaller 200, 250 seat theater,
Yeah.
but not in their 500 seat theater. So we're making maybe a fourth of the money because the tickets are cheaper. There aren't as many of them. The run isn't as long. And so financially, even though you're getting your play done at that same regional theater, it's not equal.
Yeah.
And so realizing, those challenges, which of course being a self-producing playwright, that's why I ended up doing that. And then now as I get older, there's so many more women getting opportunities. It's really exciting, the Kilroy's list, and a lot more awareness. But it's all the younger women. So ageism is now creeping in, and I was never a 20-year-old playwright or 25 or even a 30-year-old playwright.
Right.
I didn't start writing till later. So what do we do with what do we do with plays like that? It's almost like the women question back in the Victorian age. What do we do with unmarried women? They have to be either governesses or prostitutes. So it's so what do we do with women playwrights who started writing later? They were actors, maybe they raised families or whatever. They're never going to be that 25-year-old playwright that everybody gets excited about. And so it's tricky to navigate. Right. And there's a group called Honor Roll that is 1,000 women strong of playwrights over 40 who are advocating for ourselves. But there's a whole generation of playwrights now in their 50s and 60s who never got that chance. And now because they're older women, maybe white older women, are they going to get that chance? Because the spotlight has shifted in another direction and it never shone on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's on my mind a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot to be on your mind. I totally hear that, totally get that, totally see how that's all, that's happening. And I think that you've already answered this question, though. I would say, what are some of the things that you're actually most proud of? And you kind of articulated just even those beautiful little moments, and that are coming in from different people. But Yeah, like is, like some of the things that any other things you want to add to that list that you're most
Well,
proud of?
almost exactly 2 years ago on April 2nd, I was in the emergency room of New York Presbyterian on oxygen, fighting for my life. And I thought, well, if this is the end, at least I wrote Letters to Sala and Last Train to Nibrock.
Yeah, both your
And,
two.
and I Dream Before I Take the Stand.
Yeah.
I put something in the world that's meaningful to me. And if this is it, if today's the, if this is the end,
Today's the day.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Because I did more than I ever thought I would do in life.
Right. So those three beautiful pieces, which are, exquisite and yeah, putting meaningful things out into the world. And I guess sometimes when you
You're
are
making me cry now. It's like Barbara Walters.
No, that was an intense time for you last year dealing with that whole
2 years ago now.
Yeah, 2 years ago, you got COVID
Yeah.
so bad. We were all like so worried for you. And but you came out of that, and now you're really, the art of self-care, taking care of yourself, and still, writing and going to the theater like crazy. Yeah. So, and that was the thing. Like, you were probably one of the most prolific theater goers that I know. I think that one year that you went to 360 plays.
No.
Wait a minute, what? So you go see things all the time. And so have you seen anything recently that you've been inspired by, or that you've been excited about?
What have I seen? I have to admit, I love Space Dogs. I had such a good at MCC. It was theatrical. It was fun. It was history. It had something to say. I had just a wonderful time. I also recently saw Prayers for the French Republic at Manhattan Theater Club, and there's some beautiful work in that. Some wonderful actors, the writing. Richard Topol,
Chris Topol's in that.
who
Great
we
job.
know at the Barrow Group, is in that. That was really exciting. Tonight I'm going to see Peter Gill Sheridan's play, The Space Between Us, at the Keene Company. Tomorrow night I'll be down at the Public seeing Suffs. And so it's interesting to see, it's kind of like that after 9/11 period. What do we write about now? Our whole world has changed in so many ways. So many lenses have changed. And so what do we write about now?
Yeah.
And that's tricky. What do we write about now? What do we want to say? And does theater matter in a world? And I think it does, because it gives us context to the world. I was just talking to one of my Goddard students, is in a Chekhov play right now in another state, and is talking about how Chekhov means something very different now. Cherry Orchard, when they're saying, the old world is over, it's all over for us now.
Right.
And the director happens to be a Russian who had, before he left Russia to come direct the play, had made some statements and probably can never go back.
Wow.
So, what do we do with all this? I don't know.
Yeah.
As Olga says in Three Sisters, we must work.
That's true. That is so true. And I think with that, I'm at total time right now. So I want to thank you so much for chatting with me today. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in and hearing Arlene, Beth today. And I wish you all all good things, and stay healthy, and keep creating your own things, keep writing your own things, keep acting your own things, and producing your own things. And we're getting lots of thank you very much, Arlene. So great. So everyone, take care, and we hope to see you very soon in our new space. So great. Have fun at the theater tonight, Beth, and thank you all for tuning in. Okay. All right.
Thanks, Lee. Thank you so much.
Good. Okay.